Hello, my name's Sue Lewis, and I'm going to run you through this lesson. So, specifically into Year 10, it's all about work experience. I'm going to talk a bit about why do work experience, what to think about when you're thinking about what one might suit you, and also how to find one. And this will take about 50 minutes, and there'll be a few activities for you to do, and I'll give you a bit of a timer on each so you know how long to spend on them. So first of all, let's think about certain people, where they started off, where they ended up. So we've got three people here. I don't know if you recognize them. So just to explain who they are. The first one is Barack Obama, who was the US president until 2017. And then the one on the right, you might recognize him because that's Stormzy. He's a rapper, singer, songwriter. And the woman at the bottom, that's Nicola Adams. And she's a former professional boxer and she was Olympic champion as well. So let's have a think about where they started. And of course, we know now where they ended up. So Barack Obama, his first ever job was as an ice cream seller. And then Stormzy, the first job he had was being in charge of quality assurance at an oil refinery. And Nicola Adams, she was a builder. And this just makes the point really, the where you start from isn't always where you're going to end up. So you're in year 10, you're just beginning your journey to think about jobs, and who knows where you might end up in the future. So this is where you are now. You're in year 10 and you're thinking about what you might do for work experience. So kind of why work experience? Well, work experience can be a great way of helping you make other choices later. Because if you find out what you like, then it might influence what you choose to do when you're 16 or what you choose to do when you're 18. And certainly might have an impact on the type of jobs you choose to do later. So it's a really good way to get going on your career and start thinking about what is important to you. So why do it? Well, it's a chance to find out about a specific company, learn, practice your skills in a different situation, try out a job role as well, something you've never tried before potentially. But also to be seen as a future worker and to see yourself as a future worker and just kind of feel about what that's about. So work experience can help you answer these questions. Is this the sort of job I like? And even if it's not, there's a good way to find out. What skills will I need if I wanted to do this job? It'll help you think about that. What is the best way to talk to a boss? Maybe you've never had to talk to a boss before. It's quite different from being in a school environment. So you'll learn things like that too. Do I like the working conditions? I've been out, your work experience might be outdoors and you might love that or not love that. So it's a great way to find those things out. Could I do this job every day, 9 to 5, or whatever it might be? Oh, and maybe if you're interested, how could I get into this job? So work experience is going to help you with all these things. It's also good to be thinking about where the future jobs are going to be because that's where the opportunities might be in going forward. So these are 4 sectors that are definitely going to be growing. There might be others too, but we know the medical, health, science and care is a big growth area. IT and digital, engineering and construction, environmental, healthcare is part of that medical, health, science and care as well, and that's a big growth area. So in terms of you planning your work experience, there's kind of 4 things you need to think about. Think about job sector or job you'd like to try. Maybe you've already got an idea. Think about what you've got to offer. So your skills and your interests, give you something to talk about to the employer. Find a placement and then maybe have a CV ready as well so you can show the employer a little bit about yourself. This is a good way of trying that out because it'll become more important later when you're really applying for a job. So we're going to go through some of these things as part of this session. We're going to be using Career Pilot. Maybe you've used it before. It's a one-stop careers website, so everything's in one place for you. And what we're going to be doing is using the career tools. And the only way you can access the career tools is by getting signed in. Maybe you've registered already, and hopefully you can remember your password and you could just sign yourself in. If you haven't registered before, I'm just going to show you how to do that in a minute. We're going to use something called the skills profile. So that'd be a great way of you finding out what skills you've got. So if an employer says, what skills have you got? You'll be able to say and tell them specifically what they are. We're going to do a job quiz, and that'll help you think about the sort of job areas you'd be interested in. And also you can look in a bit more detail at some of those jobs and see, does that suit me? Is that something I'd like to do for work experience or maybe even in the future? So to explain about registration, you just go to careerpilot.org.uk. If you've never registered, you click on register. If you have registered before, then just sign in. If you've forgotten your password, you can click on forgotten password, but you do need to put in the right email address you used when you set up this account. So if you are registering for the first time, this form will pop up, and if you're going to sign in, you go here. But if you're registering, you put in your details, including your home postcode, and also, sorry, what school you go to as well. There'll be a list, and you can choose which one you go to. Do remember the email you're using and the password as well, because you'll need that to get back in later. So number one, we're going to think about a job sector or job that you would like to try out. And we're going to do this by you doing the job quiz. So I'm going to show you how that looks. So the job quiz is in this section called Start With You, which is on the home page, and we'll come back to that later. And what you're going to do, there's 50 pictures of things you might like to do in a work situation. Click on as many of those as you're interested in, and then you're going to get some results. And what this is showing you is what job sectors seem to fit in with what you're interested in. Just get to that point for now. We're going to go back to this a little bit later. So do the job quiz, you'll see your results. Then the next thing you're going to do is do the skills map, and that's going to help you think about what you've got to offer. So Start With You is here on the home page. If you open that up, you'll see that the job quiz is there, but also the skills profile, which is here. So if you click on that, you can also get to it straight from the career tools as well. If you click on my skills profile, that's another way into it. But this is where all your results are going to be saved. So this is definitely something you're going to go back to. So what you're going to do for the skills profile is going to ask you questions about things you've done in your life or learning. So you can click as many of those as you want. So this one's about hobbies. I've kept going with a hobby or sport out of school, which you might well have done. And then it tells you what skills that activity's probably given you. And all your skills are put into our skills bank. So in this example, this person has got 5 examples from the quiz of their teamwork. So that's their highest scoring skill at the moment. But you can also add your own, because you'll have lots of examples from things you're doing. So if you click here, you can add something of your own. So it might be that you're a part of a team, or you help with babysitting, whatever it is, and then think about the skills it's given you. You can say whether that happened in school or out of school, and that's going to be added in with the rest. So what we'd like you to do today is think of at least 2 examples of things you've done in your life, your learning, whether it doesn't have to be through school, it can be through home as well. Put the activity in, think about the skills it's given you, and then they're all going to be added in here. So you're building up your profile bank of skills. One other thing you'll be able to do later is compare your skills to a job. So we look at that a bit later on as well. We can put the name of a job, and on the pink bit it says the skills you need for that job, and you'll see your own along there side there. So you might think, oh, I've already got some of that. I might need to get a little bit more experience of these other things. Okay, so this is what you're going to do, as all the things I've just shown you. Number one, you're going to register or sign in. We would advise, as you're in year 10, to use a personal email if you're registering for the first time. And that means you can access this account when you leave school, because you have access to it until you're 20. So that might take you beyond year 12 even. So number one is register or sign in. Number two, you're going to do the job sector quiz, which is in Start With You on the home page. Then you're going to do the school skills map, add 2 examples of activities you've done. And then if you've got time, you can actually have a look at Start with a subject. You can think about subjects you love and see where they lead. But this is going to take probably about 15 minutes. So what I suggest now is you pause the video and come back when these activities are being completed. Great, so hopefully you had an opportunity to do all those things. Let's move on. So now we've talked about some of the job sectors that might suit you, and you've had a look and identified some of the skills you've already got. So in terms of getting the most out of work experience, we've already started to look at sectors that might suit you, and you've already started to look at what skills you've got to offer. So we're going to go on a bit later to look at some of the other things like find a placement and help you think about CV, but we're going to go back to the top one for now, where we're going to look more at job sectors and jobs that might suit you. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to go into explore your options, which is from the home page, and you could do that in a range of ways, but we're going to look at jobs. In this section too, there's a whole bit about work experience with some examples as well, so that might be a useful section for you to have a little look at too. So the way I would suggest you start looking at jobs is to go back to your results, which will be in my job sectors in the career tools area. So this is results of your job quiz, and it's got particular sectors like sports, leisure and tourism, art and design that be mapped to the things that you're interested in. And I would start there. So start with number one, the most significant match, and then go on to number two and have a look at the different jobs. So once you go in there, if you clicked on a sector, it would go into something like animal. And what you could do here is read that information. You think, yeah, I might be interested in that. You can always tag it, and everything you tag gets added to your career tools. But the thing I want you to do is look at job profiles. So if you click on that, you'll see all the profiles that are related to the sector called animals. And if you like any of these things, you can click on them, open them up, and you're going to get a whole load of information about that job. You're going to have, is it going to grow? What sort of salary might I get? And then lots of other information besides. What will I do? What are the entry requirements? That's a useful thing to know. Where do people mostly work in the country if they're into this job? So there's lots of information there. And if you scroll even further down, you get videos about the job. Again, you can see the skills that the job requires and your skills alongside. So there's opportunity to drill down into some jobs that seem interesting to you. So just be aware, in every section of CareerPal, you can tag what you like. So whatever there's a plus sign, you can add it, whether it's an apprenticeship, a job, or value, or all sorts of things. And everything is being saved for you in the career tools. And later, you'll be able to look at your full report. So what you can do now, our second task, which will take about 15 minutes, look at the sectors suggested by the job quiz, and then explore one of those sectors. And when you get there, look at some job profiles of things that might be interesting to you. And look at some of the information about salaries. Is it going to grow? What's involved? Learn about that job and be thinking, is this something I might like to do on a work experience, or even something I might like to do in the future? So you've got about 15 minutes to do these activities. So again, I suggest you pause this video and come back when you've completed those activities. Great. So hopefully a chance to explore jobs in a bit more detail, and you know a little bit more about some of the ones that might be interesting to you. If you want to know more about jobs, we do have a whole section in CareerPal called Stories. There's over 1,000 video stories there, and you can search by a job or by a qualification or by a subject, and you get lots of ideas about any of those things. So I've shown you Army here, Armed Forces, and you see lots of videos. Even if you can't see them in school, you could look at those in your home time as well. So back to getting most out of work experience, we've had a bit of a drill down now to look at sectors and jobs. There might be some opportunities there for work experience. We've talked about the skills you've got to offer. So we're going to think now a little bit about how you find that placement, and then we'll talk about the CV. So find a placement. How can you get some help? Well, there's always people around who will be happy to help you. You can ask your family members or their friends for ideas or contacts they might have in a particular job area you'd like to do. You can look at local companies around you to see whether they offer the things that you're interested in. As your teachers, they always have a really good list of all the employers they've used in the past, so that might help you there. But on Career Palette, we do have a section in the jobs area called Finding a Job Experience. And this tile, finding virtual work experience. It's got quite a lot of examples. So if you're thinking of a virtual work experience, here's some ideas to get you going. We also talk about why work experience, what's in it for you, so you can start thinking about what you personally want to get from it. And we'll also come back later to look at a CV builder as well. So just a little bit about virtual, because a lot of work experience has become more virtual since the pandemic. You might be familiar with this already, but the great thing about virtual is that it could be anywhere in the world. You could be working for Google, or it could be very flexible. You might go and do some online activities one day and then come back to them a few days later. And employers can take a lot more people because they have virtual opportunities. So in Career Palette, we've tried to put together the virtual experiences we know about. So you can go to Finding Job Experience, click on Finding a Virtual Work Experience, and then you can look at a different sector. So all the information is on the left, but on the right, you can pick a sector that you'll be interested to do a virtual work experience in and have a look and see if there's anything there that you might like. Okay, so we've talked a bit about placements. Obviously, you need to go out there and find one. We haven't got time to do that in this session, but we also will talk quickly about a CV. So you're only in year 10, so you might not have a lot of things to put in a CV, but it might be worth starting to try that out and think about the things you might talk to an employer about if they ask you some questions about you and why you want that particular job. So I'm going to run you through this quick video, which talks about how you create your CV, and it's only a 2-minute video, but it'll give you a few ideas. Okay, so that was a very quick introduction to a CV, but you have to bear in mind you're only in year 10. So in year 10, there's lots of things you wouldn't have done yet. So you want to keep it quite simple, and you won't be able to reflect on all the work experience you've done, and you haven't got your qualifications yet. So, just think about things you can talk about. I would suggest you focus on, you make sure your personal details are there, any qualifications you're doing at the moment, even though you haven't achieved them, any skills, we've just done the skills map, so you should have some ideas from that, and then any interests you've got already or hobbies. And if you have got some work experience like babysitting, you can put that on as well. So on Career Palette, we've got a very simple CV that can help to get you going, and I'll show you in a minute how you download it. But just be aware you've already got a lot of things from doing the career tools. So in terms of your education, if you've been looking at the qualifications and you've added in what you're going to be predicted for your GCSE, then that could be there. Your skills, you can put them in here. Your interests would go in here, and if you have got any work experience, you could add that in too. It's quite nice to do a little summary about you and phrase it quite positively. I am reliable, like to do a good job, I'm always on time for school. Think about what employers want from people and try to put something in about you. So to do that CV, you can go to the job section, find in the job experience CV, and then You'll see it like there, like a blank on a Word file, and you can download it. Okay, and there are others available too. I would suggest you start this very easy one for now. So you might not have time to do that. It might have to be something you do as homework, but hopefully at least you can see where you might get it. And because you haven't got your qualifications yet, you could put predicted or say pending, which means, I'm doing them, but I haven't got my results yet. I would take out the work experience section unless you've got anything to put in there, but you've certainly got other things like skills and interests you can flag up. So we've done thinking about a job sector or job you would like to try. You've thought about the skills you've got and you've got some ideas of things you can offer. We've looked into how you might find a placement, shown you where those virtual opportunities might be. And we've talked about a CV, and that might be something you're going to have to do in your own time. So hopefully that quick session has given you quite a lot of information about work experience, why do it, how you go about choosing a placement, and you've got some ideas about your CV as well. So what sectors did you look at when you were looking at specific jobs? Which ones are you particularly interested in? Everybody's different, and we need people from all these sectors to be in the working world. You might have found a particular job that earns more than £100,000. Can you imagine that? That's a lot of money. And the two jobs I've picked up from that is surgeon, and obviously you have to be very experienced to get that sort of salary, and also a solicitor. So you start on a much lower salary, but you could progress up to a much higher salary over time. Thank you for listening today. If you've got time, you might want to complete the Career Pilot survey. If you go to the homepage, right at the bottom, keep going down, and there's a movable banner, and there's one which says give feedback. If you complete our survey, you could win a voucher. We do a monthly prize draw. So good luck with all your plans. Hopefully you'll get the work experience you want. And even if you don't, it can teach you an awful lot about what you like and don't like about working life. So good luck. Thank you.